Ever heard of socially responsible investing?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds kind of like a modern thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Put your money where your morals are.
Right.
Well, get this. We're going all the way back to 19th century England.
Okay.
The Quakers were already doing it back then.
Wow.
They were way ahead of the game. And that little historical tidbit, it kind of sets the stage for our deep dive today, which is going to be on corporate sustainability.
Okay.
What it is, where it came from, and why it matters, probably more than ever these days.
Absolutely. And we're looking at all of that through this academic article that we've got
Yeah.
from the Revista de Estudios Avanzados de Liderazgo. It's a mouthful, I know. We'll unpack it.
Yeah.
All the jargon,
Yeah.
all the research.
Yeah.
You're going to walk away feeling very informed, maybe even a little inspired.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the article kicks off by taking us back to 1972. Pretty pivotal year, wouldn't you say, for the planet?
Huge. 1972 was the UN Conference on the Environment,
Right.
which really kind of put sustainability on the map for everyone.
Yeah.
Not only that, but that same year, the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, was born.
Yeah.
So yeah, 1972, big year.
Yeah, it really does feel like that was the year that everyone kind of went, oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is real. We have to start paying attention. But as we've already seen, I mean, even going back to the Quakers, the roots of all of this go way further back.
Oh yeah, the article actually goes into this really interesting kind of evolution of corporate environmentalism.
Okay.
So, back in the 70s, it was mostly about compliance.
Okay.
Don't break the law, that kind of thing.
Right.
But as we get into the 90s, there's a huge shift.
Okay.
Suddenly, businesses are like, wait a minute, being green, this could be good for business.
Right, which makes sense if you think about how much consumer preferences have changed even in our lifetime.
Totally.
I mean, people care about where their products come from, what a company stands for.
Yeah, it's not just about the product or service anymore. People want what you're selling to jive with what they believe in.
Yeah.
Sustainability is a huge part of that.
Huge. Now, the article also, it dives into this whole concept of the green economy, which I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like that can be a little bit of a nebulous term. How would you explain that?
Yeah, it's almost like, imagine walking a tightrope. So you've got like economic progress on one side,
Right.
right? And you've got environmental well-being on the other.
Okay.
Green economy is that sweet spot in the middle.
Right.
And the article actually says it's about the use or consumption we make of resources, as well as the environment's ability to absorb the waste we generate.
Which, it makes sense, but it also feels like a pretty tall order to actually achieve.
It is.
And I think that kind of brings us to, one of the big things that this article highlights is just the challenge of even defining what corporate sustainability is. Because if we're all working from different definitions, I mean, how can we even move forward?
For sure.
So we're trying to define this big idea of corporate sustainability, and the article actually gives us a visual,
Yeah.
like a model, to help us wrap our heads around it.
Yeah, they call it the sustainable business model.
Oh.
And they break it down into 5 key parts. And, it might seem a little academic at first.
Sure.
But it's actually pretty interesting when you dig into it.
Okay, well, let's dig in.
All right. So the kind of the foundation of the whole thing is this idea of like a new approach to business. And they're not talking about like little tweaks here,
Right.
It's like a whole different way of thinking about what a business is, what it does, not just for its shareholders, but like for the world.
Yeah, changing the game entirely, not just changing the players.
Exactly. And part of that is this idea of social inclusion. So it's not just about profits.
Okay.
It's about people, right?
Right.
Fair labor practices, diversity, giving back to the community, that kind of thing.
Because a business doesn't exist in isolation.
Right.
It's part of a larger ecosystem.
Totally. And speaking of ecosystems, the next couple of parts are all about how businesses interact with the planet and its resources. So first, you've got optimizing natural resources.
Okay.
Basically, using only what you need, minimizing waste, throughout the whole life cycle of a product, from where you get the materials to how you get rid of them at the end.
Right, because we can't just keep taking and taking.
Exactly. And then that kind of flows into the next part, which is all about reducing environmental impact.
Okay.
So, things like lowering your carbon footprint, reducing pollution, protecting biodiversity, all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's about thinking holistically, right?
Right.
The big picture impact.
Totally. And all of that ultimately feeds into the last part, which is kind of the big overarching goal, which is preserving the planet for future generations.
Right. So it's not just about today, it's about tomorrow, too.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that, we have a responsibility to the future,
Hmm.
but, and this is where it gets a little tricky.
Okay.
The model does a good job of showing us, like, the ideal, right? What a sustainable business should look like.
Right.
But it doesn't change the fact that businesses still need to, make money.
Of course. So how do you square that circle? How do you make sustainability profitable?
Right, because if it's not good for business, it's not going to, really take hold.
Exactly.
And the article actually lays out 4 main ways that businesses can create value through sustainability.
Yeah.
And it's not as simple as just, charging more for something because it's green.
Okay. So what are the 4 ways?
Well, the first one is kind of the most straightforward, and that's reducing costs and risks.
Okay.
Think about it. If you use less energy, your energy bills go down.
Right.
If you have less waste, you're paying less to dispose of it.
Hmm.
If you're sourcing your materials ethically, you're less likely to have, like, supply chain issues or PR nightmares down the road. All of that goes straight to the bottom line.
So it's about finding those win-wins, right?
Exactly. Good for the planet, good for business. And a lot of times those win-wins come from innovation,
Right.
which is actually the second way that sustainability can create value. It's about brand reputation. Consumers, especially younger consumers, they want to buy from companies that they see as ethical and environmentally responsible.
Yeah, it's about appealing to that sense of values that we were talking about before.
Exactly. And if you're a company that's seen as, like, part of the problem, good luck attracting top talent,
Yeah.
which is actually the 4th way that sustainability can create value.
Ah, okay. I was going to say, I bet talent plays into this somehow.
Totally. People want to work for companies that share their values.
For sure. Nobody wants to be part of the problem, right?
Yeah, it's bad for morale.
Yeah.
So, companies with strong sustainability programs, they have a much easier time attracting and retaining good people.
Which in turn makes them more successful. It's all connected.
Right. But, and this is important, we can't ignore the fact that, at the end of the day, most businesses are still mostly driven by profit.
Right. They're not charities. So how do we balance that need for profit with the desire to do good for the planet?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. And the article actually uses the example of green financial indexes.
Like the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, that kind of thing.
Yeah, FTSE 4 Good, all those. And they sound great on the surface, right? I mean, they're tracking companies that are doing well on, environmental, social, and governance factors. They call it ESG.
Right, ESG, yeah. So what's the catch?
Well, they are looking at those factors,
Yeah.
but it's not like those are the be-all and end-all.
Okay.
They're still mostly focused on, like, financial performance. So a company could be, like, doing the bare minimum when it comes to sustainability.
Right.
But if their profits are through the roof, they might still end up on one of these indexes.
So it's like, when you were in school and you got a good grade just for showing up,
Yeah.
not for actually, doing the work.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. And it actually highlights something that's super important when we're talking about all of this, which is transparency. Consumers are getting smarter.
Yeah.
They want to know what's really going on. It's not enough to just say that you're eco-friendly.
Right.
They want proof.
They want to see it.
Yeah. Data, accountability, like how are you measuring your impact? And that's where this idea of sustainability reporting comes in.
Yep.
The article mentions the Global Reporting Initiative, GRI. They've got this whole framework that businesses can use to measure their sustainability and then be really transparent about it,
Yeah.
with everybody.
So they're kind of like the referees, making sure everyone's playing by the rules.
Exactly. And here's the thing. More and more people are paying attention to the game now.
That's a good thing, right?
Yeah, it's not just consumers anymore. Investors are looking at ESG. Employees care about it. Even entire communities.
Yeah.
Because it affects everybody.
Right. We're all stakeholders in the future.
Exactly. And I think that's really what it all comes down to. Businesses, they aren't these separate things. They have a responsibility to their employees, to the people who buy their products, to the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And yet to their bottom line, too. It's all about finding that balance.
Right? Like walking that tightrope. So as companies are figuring all of this out, we've talked about how sustainability can be good for business. But is that enough? I mean, what happens when doing the right thing hurts your profits?
That's the million-dollar question. And the article doesn't pretend to have all the answers, but it does remind us that we're at a really crucial point. The decisions that we make now as consumers, as investors, as business leaders,
Mhm.
those decisions, they matter. They will shape the future, not just of business, but of the planet.
So where do we go from here? What can
Uh,
we do?
I think it starts with awareness,
Okay.
asking the right questions,
Mm.
not just taking a company's word for it.
Doing your research.
Exactly. Look beyond the marketing,
Mhm.
figure out what's really going on. Because ultimately, we all have a role to play in shaping a more sustainable future.
I love that. Well, this has been a fascinating look at corporate sustainability. I feel like we've covered so much ground today,
We have.
from like the history of the movement to where things are headed.
It's a big topic.
And I think, most importantly, hopefully our listeners will come away from this feeling like they have a better understanding of all of this
That's the goal.
and that they can be a part of the solution. So thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.